So do you guys remember my 1,500 view special? Wait, no, it was my 1,000 view special. Well, essentially, we had every little girl in my class go to war, and we went from there. Well, I'm gonna actually make a part 2 to that, because that was kind of cool, and that was actually based off an earlier video that I made. But this one had a lot more detail. Anyways, where we left off was essentially in this timeline. It's like 1930 at this point. The world isn't that bad. Hanish just got shoved back into his corner. But first off, we have Marcel essentially being like the smallest country, so we might as well just have something trigger the first war. And that thing is gonna be Nicholas. Nicholas is gonna be invading Marcel. Well, I wonder who's gonna. No, wait, no, yeah, I forgot. Tito's actually been changing groups in my class recently, so that's why, Marcel and Isabel switched places. Now, this Marcel, this Isabel, now, me and Isabel in real life are sort of friends, and she's also friends with Rachel over here. So, yeah, let's just say we give her some land, because honestly, every country needs to have at least a chance. Well, wait a minute. Well, I would go to war with Marcel. Oh, definitely not Isabella, though. She hasn't done anything to me yet. Keyword yet. She might in the future. Don't mind that. But we actually just have some new things happening. Like Nicholas being mad. Now Nicholas needs more land. Nicholas decides to invade Amir and Lewis to restore his old empire days. Well, now that's gonna go. So then Nicholas surprisingly actually does something good. Invades Lear, because apparently Amir didn't have a very stable governance of the country, so that's a collapse. And this causes Adam and Arian to think that they're the world police. So yes, essentially Lestarian is controlled by Nicholas. So in a way, that's also part of the war. Genesis is like chillax. Genesis wants to war on her own team for now. Why? Because Genesis is actually fighting Matthias. So yeah, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, they're just essentially the Matthias Empire. This one's pretty good for itself so far. All these wars are kind of intertwined because of Nicholas, and Nicholas kind of supports Genesis in a way. But then, again, essentially Nicholas and Genesis say, let's stay on the same team, because we're right here. But it's also Matthias on the enemy team, which makes Mason want to help Matthias. Which then, yeah, I forgot, Elias doesn't exist anymore. Never mind. Now we have a giant war. But inevitably, Nicholas and Genesis have already taken Matthias' capital. So Matthias says just to keep going a little bit. And then Arian decided that they're going to try to help. Somehow. Surprisingly, they actually managed to invade Lestarian. This tiny part, this small part where it essentially gets divided. Hence the northern pocket shrinks. Then again, Nicholas also needs to attack Arian in order to get to Genesis. So hence we have Nicholas attacking East Arian. Nicholas takes Arian's capital in a matter of days. And decides to show Adam that he is not actually that strong. Nicholas manages to link up with Genesis finally. Okay, now Adam and Arian are attempting to invade Genesis. But this isn't getting really anywhere. Nicholas and Lewis are having just like a giant. Nicholas and Lewis are just having a giant fight over here. Nicholas is inevitably slowly gaining ground, as Nicholas does have the superiority. North inevitably start to lose. Near's army was destroyed, but Nicholas doesn't want to fight this major war. After all, Nicholas just wanted some land. He didn't want this to turn into a giant world war. Well, essentially says, can we, like, not fight this war anymore? And again, though, Luna is kind of against the whole war thing. Then again, Arya also wants to help Genesis. And then Luna also wants to help Arya. Then, yeah, just basically, like, all of Genesis' allies are now just going to war, which, yeah. This is just causing a giant domino effect. It also has a large domino effect, which means a lot of people join in. Then again, they're enemies, and some of them don't like them. Essentially, we have a giant world war that looks something like this. This is just about as bad as things could get. For blue team. After all, the red team still outnumbers them, even with all their new reinforcements. We have Genesis continuing the invasion of Matthias. Literally cutting the country in two. Which is surprising. And from here on out, it's something like this. Matthias's armies further north literally just do not have enough to really even win. Then Genesis even invades Adam. But I think that's enough of that mapping. Let's go ahead and make a new mapping thing. Yes, I did actually screenshot this. Alrighty. This is essentially, just for now, we're gonna have the United States versus Canada scenario. Basically, USA is like, hey Canada, we're just gonna fight you now. Let's see who wins. A lot of Canada's islands are fairly big, so yeah, you're not just gonna call in like most of the big ones. Alrighty, here we go. So, instantly, since US is the attacker. Now, obviously there's a lot of major cities, like, these big five that it's called. These two. Canada only has like 2 euros, alright? America, if they can capture like loads of these, like they essentially take over all of Canada. So hence Canada's most of their armies around here. So let's begin. First off, let's start on the basically. Oh wait a minute, Canada has 3. Or I forgot to have Vancouver. Canadian forces around Vancouver attempt to take the approaches to Seattle, which goes fairly well, I think. Gonna go fairly well for them. Essentially, they capture everything south, and then a small Canadian force further north begins to head in. American forces around Seattle aren't very strong, according to my knowledge, so we have Canada completely surrounding them. At the same time, though, we also have Canadian forces crossing into Alaska. Because, well, that just kind of makes sense. And, yeah, we basically are just going to color in the entire border and then just show Canada conquering all of Alaska. Most of the borders, literally on this map, is just a straight line. This this is essentially Canada's attack into Alaska. Into Alaska essentially goes something like this. The Canadians push through almost the entire country, the entire state, even catching Fairbanks, surprisingly. Most of Alaska's people live along the coast and the south. The Canadian forces continuing their push inland in some spots. But then the Canadians surround the town of Darrow, Alaska. Here is the siege of Darrow beginning. Now, Darrow is a pretty big town by Alaskan standards. Inevitably. They're all surrounded. And then the town finally falls. At the same time, we are just going to continue the Canadian attacks elsewhere. That's what we essentially just have. Ended up rolling over almost all of Alaska. Then there's the Battle of Anchorage beginning. Canadian forces reach the Pacific along a wide front. This honestly was not the best snapping video, but hey, you know, it's cool. So essentially, USA is stuck to the coast of Alaska, this peninsula, and these other peninsulas. Now, namely because of Anchorage and Juneau. These, well, you know, these just because the Canadian Navy isn't so superior. At the same time, though, we actually have the USA finally actually doing something in this war, and that is attempting to take Toronto. Keyword attempting, because they're not going to be doing it. They get fairly close to the city, but then are stopped by Canadian forces. So that the approaches to the city. At the same time, American forces attempt to liberate Seattle. This doesn't go well. Canadian forces are continuing to just try to push out, and the Seattle pocket shrinks slightly. The Canadian forces attempt to take the entire state of Washington. This doesn't go too well, hence they set up a puppet government. What is a puppet government? A state. Which is pretty good. Although the Canadians attempt to catch what's left of American forces. Seeing as they can now recruit soldiers from here, they're doing very well, and now they're even able to shrink the Seattle pocket into the city, and soon the city falls. The Americans decide to evacuate the entire area. This is overestimating Canada by a lot, but then again, just to make things slightly more interesting, we have some revolts over the war, namely in Florida. Also in Florida, and the largest of them is the California one, which even gets Vegas to join. This takes out almost the entirety of what's left in the entire, basically the entire U.S. fleet is now in this revolt's hands. So yeah, you know, Let's see if the USA can fight off Canada and these revolts. At the same time, Alaska? Yeah, they lost it all. Don't ask how, they just lost it all. Congratulations, you just lost Alaska. But at the same time, though, the U.S. forces have finally begun to push closer and closer to Toronto. Seeing this, the Canadians decided they could push back using their navy from up here, then make a naval landing behind the American lines, wishing them to retreat back. Also at the same time, Canadian forces make a landing in northern Michigan. And then they decided to try to save Milwaukee, because Milwaukee is a very important city for the Canadians. They can take it, that they can move east to Chicago. The Americans don't focus too much over here, thinking that the Canadians would focus on Toronto on the Michigan front. But they are wrong. Now, Milwaukee finally falls to Canadians. A small Canadian force manages to land on Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Soon, USA has lost their entire coastline on just Lake Superior for now. Keyword for now. Actually, they've lost almost all of it over here. They only have, like, this part left. Anyways, the Canadians continue just to push around Lake Erie. At the same time, the revolts in California actually starts to pick up some momentum. Saying that the Canadian offensive in Oregon. Canada starts an offensive again, and they're capturing all of Oregon. Parts of it are still in Washington State, because they didn't take it all on the offensive. But now, they're almost entirely fighting in Oregon after just a couple of weeks. American forces in Oregon are now forced to basically just retreat. I mean, like, they could be surrounded. The Indians think about the Californians. Californian rebels have begun. Rebels have begun to link up with Canadians further north. California and Canada both claim that this area is unified territory. Essentially, they make a line. Canada draws the line. California says look, why? Why specifically there? Just that everything north of the line will go to Canada, everything south will go to California. And it goes straight as an arrow. There until basically you hit Denver. Until you hit Denver. Is at this point that we have a peace treaty. Because really no one would want to fight this war. Alright, peace terms. Basically, USA gets this. Canada gets the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. in this area. Canada claims almost all of Washington and Oregon. California gets its independence. Not entirely what they had, but so they got their independence. Even Florida gets independence, but they still have to pay up money. So yeah, just as it turned out. Also, USA gets to keep Alaska. So yeah. Well, yeah, it looks kind of like Canada won. That's gonna be it for this mapping video. Bye-bye.